Hey guys, Jexie here. Welcome back to another video. So today's video is kind of inspired by something else I've been seeing going online. I've seen a lot about this singer Leah and people being worried about her, saying maybe she's having some sort of mental illness problems or maybe she's using drugs. And I don't know anything about it. I don't know enough. But she said something in one of her clips that, like, again, really reminded me of an experience I went through. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. So I was watching a video the other day, and it was one of I think it was like an Instagram live that Leah had done that, people were turning to say that she's clearly something's going on. And again, I don't know enough about what's happening with her or her in general to make an assumption about it, but she did say one thing that struck a chord in me, and maybe it's relevant, maybe it's not, but I thought I'd share my experience. So she said that she loves somebody who can never love her back. And man, that brought me right back to the beginning of my using. Look, I knew I was an addict long before I ever picked up drugs in the way I thought. It's a family disease. I have other family members who are in recovery. And so, like, I use differently than everybody else, right? Like, if you had three drinks, I had eight. If you took one pill, I needed three. If you smoked one joint, I wanted six, whatever. I always felt like I needed more than other people to feel what they were feeling, right? Like, I always felt that way. So, although I always knew I was an addict, my like worst of my using didn't take off until I was much older. I always use like an addict when I use, but I wasn't like an everyday user for a while. It was like the last couple years before I got clean that like my using took like a turn for the worse and I was using every day. And what I can tell you exactly what started that. I was with my ex-husband and he was dealing with some pretty bad PTSD and which is post-traumatic stress disorder and traumatic brain injury from being a soldier. And he was not seeking help for it, and so it was getting worse and worse over time. And I, if you live with somebody who suffers from PTSD or TBI, you probably can relate to this. Um, it's almost hard to think about, because it really was like probably the loneliest time of my life. He was very absent, like he was there, like he'd be in the house, but he didn't really want to talk to me, and he definitely didn't want to touch me. Like he didn't want me on the couch next to him. He didn't want to hug me. We didn't sleep in the same bed, and forget being intimate. Like that, it was not happening, right? And like over time, like it got lonelier and lonelier, and I started to cry to him, like, please, like, can't we just sit next to each other on the couch? Like, can't we just pretend, like, please? And I remember he was getting frustrated and it wasn't his fault, right? But he was refusing to get help, and it, I was stuck. What am I supposed to do if he doesn't want to get help? And I remember one day he used to get prescribed all different types of pain meds for physical injuries he had. And for a while they used to try like a bunch of different types of pills, like painkiller wise, and then they'd switch him from one to another. And so he ended up with like this backpack filled with like pills that he didn't take anymore. And they'd switch dosage and whatever, and he just kept them and kept them and kept them. And it's crazy how many he accumulated. And one day when I was feeling like incredibly lonely and just wanted his attention, I remember him saying like, well, do you maybe want a pill? And I was like, okay, like, sure. And I used, some type of painkiller, whatever it was. I don't even remember now. It didn't matter. I used all of them at some point. And like, man, it fixed the problem because when I was high, I didn't care that he didn't want to talk to me or hug me or love me, right? Like, I was numb. I was fine. And like that became my solution. That became my solution for everything. And I used to look forward to, he started sharing with me like every Friday or something. And I would look forward to it. And I remember like the one Friday, it became like a control thing too, though. Because like he wouldn't share with me all the time. And like if I asked for it, like he wouldn't, right? And like it became a very big abuse thing in the sense of like he got to control when I used and when I didn't. And I had my heart set on the fact that like that night he was going to share one with me. I was like certain that was going to be the case. And he decided he wasn't going to. And I remember where there was like, it had been a half a pill from like the last time he shared with me. So I took it. And the next time he went to share, he looked for that pill and he wasn't there. And he was so mad. And I told him, I don't know where it is. Where'd you put it? And I literally made him believe that maybe the kids had gotten to it. I was like, you left it in a drawer where the kids could reach? How could you do that? How irresponsible. Why would you do that? What's the matter with you? Knowing full well I had taken it. But I helped him look for it. I've always heard the saying that like an addict will steal your wallet and help you look for it. That's exactly what this was. I was helping him look for something I knew wasn't there. And like from that point on, like my addiction really took off and I started stealing pills and stuff. But the reason I bring that up is because that feeling of just wanting to be loved, that feeling of loneliness, of heartache, of feeling like alone, right, was what caused me to use. Now, I am not in any way saying that I think Leah's using drugs because, again, I just don't know. And even if I did, I don't believe that it's in anybody's place to call somebody out like that. Like, that's not what we do, right? Like, I believe in giving a message of hope and of recovery and letting people know, um, what addiction is and how we find recovery programs and how we can love each other and support each other and never judge each other, right? But like, it's up to each individual person to like stand up and say that they want help, that they need help, right? I do think it is a good idea when we see somebody struggling like that we don't know, um, reaching out to family and friends and encouraging them, to check on her. Those things are a good idea, right? But we have to be careful. We have to be careful in our desire to help that we don't cause more harm. Because look, a lot of people go through years of addiction before they're ready for help. And although some drugs don't allow you to have that kind of time before it takes your life, right? I know people who relapse once and that's it. I was at a funeral a few days ago. Um, I had just seen the kid a few days before. He was fine. He was fine. And then he's gone. So like the worry is legit. There's a good reason, whether it's mental illness or addiction that's causing her to have these problems. Like the worry is legit, right? Unfortunately, there's not much any of us can do. The hope is that people who are close to her in her life reach out and support her. But again, the reason I shared this is because when she made that one statement, and nobody else talked about that statement as being important, right? But to me, like that statement was very telling. I love somebody who will never love me back. Sometimes when we feel that kind of heartache, numbing feelings is helpful. At least it was for me. Again, I'm not implying that she's using drugs. But like for myself, I know I have to watch whenever I start feeling very lonely or unloved when I get into that kind of headspace. Because the reality of it is I have tons of people in my life that love me and I'm never really alone. But that doesn't mean I can't feel lonely. And if I get into that headspace where I'm lonely or I'm feeling unloved, that's a much more dangerous place for me to be than anything else. So I don't know. Let me know if you're an addict, what is like the feeling that causes you to use most? Like what was your biggest trigger when it comes to feelings? Or was it not a feeling? Was it a thing? Share with me what was like your biggest issue? What was the start of your addiction? And how do you get through those feelings? What do you do now that you're in recovery to like get through the worst of it? If there's anything you want me to talk about in regards to my own experiences, please let me know. If you'd like to support my channel, as always, I do have a Patreon, I have a Discord. Leaving a like and subscribing are huge. I have some big collabs coming up over the next few weeks, maybe a couple months, depending, that I'm really excited about. So I look forward to that. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this through to the end. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Hope to see you at trivia on Wednesday. Bye, guys.